Hey everyone, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and welcome to part 19 of my Logic Pro 10 201 course. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on finalizing most of the elements in the instrumental. FYI, I'm post-commentating this. I'm doing it this way because sometimes it's really difficult to teach and work at the same time. I actually recorded and commentated a whole video on this, and I didn't like how it turned out, so I scrapped all of my changes and started from scratch again. And I'm much happier with this result. So this is definitely a long run format video, and you won't see too many cuts in it, except for I made a change and didn't like it, so I ended up undoing it anyway. So let's jump back in here. I feel like I want the bass to be fatter. It's kind of weak on the upper notes especially, so I'll add in the soft distortion with the compressor, and I'll play around with the distortion settings as well. I'll also add some bass and mid-range presence with the channel EQ.
Tell me.
The sub-bass plugin is perfect to accentuate some of your more sub-low frequencies, but you don't want to use too much of it. I don't want the woofer and subwoofers to be pumping too much on the bass. I want that more on the kick, but I just want to give the bass a bit more low-end presence. And then I'll just readjust the EQ as well. So here I'm just going to add some reverb to the snares, hi-hats, and clap tracks using an effects send and space designer. Yeah, I really like the blue plate. It's really giving it sort of like an explosive snare sound. So I've got this loaded on the claps as well. Let's give this a listen in the intro during the clap buildup.
That you see it, can you feel it?
I'll just mute the vocals for a bit too, since I'm not going to be working with them for a while. So I'm going to create an aux track in the mixer and then assign this to bus 4. And what I'm going to do with this is create a master filter bus for all of the tracks except for the vocals to run through. So what I'll do is add the channel EQ to this and use this as an effect to filter out the high end at certain points. So all of these will go to bus 4 except for the drum tracks, since they're already going to the summing stack. And then I'll right click on the aux track and choose create track to put the aux track out in the main window. And then I'll add the channel EQ. During the verse, I want to use automation to cut out a lot of the highs as a transition effect coming in from the main beat. So I'll just press A to show automation, and then I'll show the high cut frequency as my automation parameter. I can then draw in automation to cut the frequency coming into the first verse. And then you can use automation again to fade out of that low pass effect. And I'll use the automation curve tool to make this more of an exponential fade. Next, I'll add some of these snare impacts right before the verse to give it kind of a cool transition effect. They seem a bit dry with the filter sweep, so I'll duplicate the track and then add some heavy reverb to just accentuate this transition. And then I'll trim up and crossfade the joining point so that pop in the edit isn't there. I'll try out the synthesized impulse response and the lo-fi setting as well. I feel like the pianos could come down an octave during the verse as well. Shift Option down will move the MIDI notes down an octave in the piano roll. I'll pull the velocities down a bit too. I feel like the second half of this could still be up an octave, but I want the bass notes in the piano to still be lower, so I'll duplicate some of these down an octave. I like this low note over here, so I'll drag it over as well. The intro synth has filter automation on it as well. I'm going to increase the slope of the low pass filter to make this a more dramatic effect. I'll do the same with the filter sweep on the bass. Apparently I never copied these bass parts over to the other choruses, so I'll do that here as well. So the drum reverb is bothering me a bit. I like how long it is and how full it is, but I want it to decay more. So I'm gonna throw the noise gate right on the reverb channel and create a gated reverb effect. Now, one thing that's gonna come back and bite me in the butt here, and it's something I didn't think about when I was making the video, was that the signal from the channels is coming before the volume automation on the drum channel. So the drums in the intro where they're fading in, they're not going to properly trigger loud enough to open the gate. So in the intro, the reverb is gonna sort of just turn on at some point when the drums are loud enough to open the gate, but when they're lower than the gate, they're not going to come in. So I'm gonna have to fix that in the next video. I'm also going to shorten the decay time on the impact snare. This synth is starting to sound like a fly buzzing around in my head, so I'll add the arpeggiator to give it some rhythm. Yeah, so I really like how that fits with the other synth. It's both a melodic and rhythmic motive. Let's pan these and pull this one down an octave. So the one I just pulled down an octave, I'm going to duplicate the channel and the MIDI regions. But on the second one, I'm going to make this a high octave part and bypass the transposer. Apparently I couldn't make up my mind, and I pulled the third synth up an octave, and shortened the notes in the arpeggiator as well. So this is what I was talking about before. Sometimes it's hard for me to make on-the-fly musical decisions and teach and commentate at the same time. I added some delay as well. So yeah, here's another example of working on the fly. 2 minutes ago, I just copied these bass parts over, and now I just don't think I need them except for in the intro. So I'm gonna get rid of them, and sometimes less is more. The tremolo plugin will help to accent the 16th notes as well. I'm going to add the bit crusher after the tremolo but before the delay to give sort of a front end bite, almost like a plucking sound. So it's a bit too bright for my taste, but I like the tone, so I'm going to pull this down an octave with the transposer. I'm going to try something different in the verse. I'm going to duplicate this bottom synth and then mute the top two just to reduce the overall texture at this section. Now I like that, but I'm gonna duplicate this down to its own track and filter it out a bit more. It's still a bit too biting for the verse. This is just gonna help to make it sound more filtered like everything else. And then I'll use the marquee tool to pull down the volume with automation right at the end. So yeah, that gives me a really nice strong break between the sections. Let's give this a listen right at the filtered down section at the verse. I'll just automate the volume here a bit so the synth gets gradually louder. And once again, I can't make up my mind, and I'm going to try this one octave lower than before. Next, I finally want to take care of those sub-bass kick notes. When we were building the song originally in B minor, they sounded great, but now that we're in E flat minor, not so much. And I'm going to use the ES2 to recreate these. So off screen, I've already removed the bass cells from the drum machine designer, and I've got a dedicated software instrument for them now. So first I just typed in the notes, B or C flat technically, D flat and E flat, and then I came up with a basic bass patch in ES2. And then I shortened each of the notes to an eighth note in length and used the third envelope in ES2 to modulate the volume so the notes ring a bit. I also played around with the oscillators and tuning a bit to get it sounding more subby. And then I boosted the low end a bunch with the channel EQ to get those subby bass tones. And then I'll add a limiter to control the bass notes. They'll easily eat up all of the headroom in your mix. Okay, so at this point, I'm actually back to live commentary, not post commentary. And one of the things you probably heard previously was in the sub bass. I was playing around or toying around with the idea of first going from instead of E flat as the last note of the three, going down to B flat. So I actually just decided to simplify it, and it's just B, D flat, E flat every single time. It just didn't make sense with the chords and with the vocals. So here's just the drums and the sub bass. And then here's with everything in. So I'm pretty happy with the musical arrangement so far, but there's one thing I want to do in the intro real quick. The kick drum and bass in the intro, I want them to sort of come in without all of the low end presence. We're already filtering the highs with these, but the low end isn't filtered. Somewhere around there is where I want the bass to actually, where you can actually feel the bass, because the problem is, even in the first couple bars, my subwoofer is starting to shake, and I don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take advantage of the master filter that I created earlier, and in addition to filtering the high end like I did over in the verse, I'm gonna filter the low end, but just in the intro. So I'm gonna turn on the high pass filter, hit A to pull up my automation, and I'm going to automate my low cut frequency. That's right here. And just for the intro, I'm gonna pull this up. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna filter out the low end in the beginning. All right, so we only have 2 videos to go. In the next video, I'll wrap up any last sort of mix changes or arrangement tweaks. There's a few things I want to do with the vocals. We also need to go in and address that gated reverb issue in the beginning. We're also clipping on the master stereo out here. So we'll solve all of the mix and arrangement issues in the next video, part 20, and then we will master in part 21. As always, thank you for the continued support, and thanks for watching.